Professor Okome, it's quite a pleasure to meet you again.
It's a pleasure.
I know that you've done a bit of work on Professor Wangari Maathai, and can you share some of your discoveries and what you have gathered from your research about her?
Well, Wangari Maathai is a woman I admire for her courage, for her consistency, her unrelenting activism, and confidence in promoting the cause that she initiated and grooming the movement that she helped establish. As you know, she was one of the founders of the Green Belt movement, a movement that decided to initiate the planting of trees by ordinary people, mostly women, in African countries, and also inspired similar activism around the protection and stewardship to the environment. As a result of her work, some of the very pressing issues that African women and people face have been managed very effectively. And like I said, it was just through inspiring and working with ordinary people to solve their own problems. So the planting of trees, one of the things also that was inspiring as well as baffling to me is why some people, when she got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, said, what does, planting of trees have to do with peace? But, as we know, the conflicts that erupt over access to natural resources can be quite unrelenting and prolonged. And besides, also access to fuel, to wood as fuel, is something that is essential for many African communities who still depend on wood fuel for cooking their daily meals. And also, the shelter that these trees offer and the balance that they help to establish in terms of environmental integrity, and what they do in terms of keeping at bay many of the damaging factors from the ozone in the environment can be invaluable to communities. So the fact that she was a biologist and she went from that expertise to, seeing a problem of the denuding of the environment, and then saying that we can kind of figure out how to do the repair the damage that's been done, help ordinary people, and solve problems that people have in very basic ways was inspiring to me, because sometimes you can have an idea, you can even write about it.
But to put it into practice.
But to put it into practice and to work with people, to inspire those people to take that vision and, and run with it is something that is remarkable. So I think because she did a lot of what she did in a very quiet but determined way, it's easy to kind of imagine that it's something simple. But inspiring people is not something that we should discount as unimportant. Besides, desertification is a problem for many African countries, and through the planting of trees, desertification, the encroachment of the desert on people's land and especially farmland, and also on land that people have for their daily use, is kept at bay through the planting of trees, which ordinary people can do. She's been able to inspire the planting of millions of trees. I think probably now over 60 million trees in the African continent, and beyond the African continent. So I think this is something that needs to be admired, because very few people have the staying power to say they're going to do something and to do it and to keep doing it in spite of a lot of discouragement. And she did have a lot. Another thing I admire about her is, what she did to make sure that the work of women was valued as professionals, particularly in the academy, because it's as a result of her activism. It's because she didn't give up. When she was rebuffed, she tried to get a job after graduating with her PhD, and she was told there was no. She was offered the job, and then the job was withdrawn. And many people would just kind of give up and say, "Well, let me go back to the U.S. Let me go back or go work in some Western country." And she's stuck in there. She made sure she got a job at the University of Nairobi, of Kenya, Nairobi. She also made sure that women were offered similar conditions of service as men, which is something that was remarkable. And this is before many of the same things were done in Western universities, So I think this is admirable. The fact that she didn't mind being labeled the troublemaker.
Right.
This was also the case.
I think she relished that.
Yes.
Because it meant that she was getting through with what she really had in mind.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then, and this contradicts the image that many people have about African women, which is not an accurate image, but to have somebody who manifests that in very many aspects of her life. Another thing I admired about her is the fact that she was not reticent. She didn't broadcast, the fact that she was divorced and she suffered from abuse in her relationship. But when it was necessary to talk about it, she was forthright about it. Many people want to hide all these things and, present an image to the world that is not quite who they are. So the fact that she had the courage to be who she was, to talk about her experiences in a way that would also help to encourage other people who are in those kind of situations, I admire tremendously. I admire the fact that she was an activist.
Yes, I was about to ask you about her role as a pro-democracy activist.
Exactly. She was a pro-democracy activist, and at the time when there were these authoritarian regimes in Kenya, she was outspoken. She demonstrated. She led demonstrations of mothers and family members of imprisoned people who were put in prison, in jail without due process. She got a lot of flack for this. She didn't only get flack, like a lot of abuse in the newspapers and by the president of the country at the time, Arap Moi. She also was attacked by the police. All the demonstrators were attacked. She got injured. And some of the injuries that she sustained, she had to live with for a long time. For example, the injury to her knees. So, the fact that she was able to do this, and, some of those demonstrations were several months long, that she had the staying power, that she had the courage, the tenacity. It's very, very admirable. Because, as somebody who is also a professor, I think it's more comfortable to stay in the ivory tower and to pontificate from very comfortable offices and to say that mixing activism with scholarly work is distracting and somewhat, undignified and all that. So she did a whole lot of things that even people who now admire her criticized her for. And she did them without apology. I find that to be extraordinary.
Do we have any movements in West Africa that
I don't know.
Well, that movement?
We have some environmental integrity support movements. Nigeria, for example, has this women's environmental protection movement, I think. Okay. They are Friends of the Earth. They are affiliated with an international organization. So you have examples of movements that try to do what Professor Maathai did, and also I hear that there's a branch of the Greenbelt movement in Nigeria.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that her vision and her work would live long after her, and that would be for the good of not only Kenya but the whole of Africa, as well as the rest of humanity.
So what do you consider her most enduring legacy? The pro-democracy activism, or?
Well, I think she's somebody that you can say is a woman, a Renaissance woman, sort of. Mm-hmm. A woman for all seasons. Because everything that she did, she made her mark. Not only did she lead those pro-democracy protests against the excesses of the Arap Moi regime in Kenya, she also became a representative. She ran for political office, and she represented her constituency, and she did it well. One disappointment was that when she became a member of parliament, she was made
a junior minister.
A junior minister for the environment.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a sign of disrespect.
Yes.
But even those people who did that then, when she got nominated and she got awarded the Nobel, mm-hmm. they had no option but to acknowledge that she had made huge contributions. So I think at her death, by the time she died, a lot of people who had been disdainful, disrespectful, who tried to marginalize her, had actually come to acknowledge that she had made great contributions. But I think really that the work that she did in terms of the environment, the Greenbelt movement work, I would want to see as her most important legacy. The reason being that we live in a world where a lot of the resources that we have are not going to last forever. And we have to learn how to live in harmony with the environment. And we also have to learn how to, one of the things that inspire me too, is how she took to heart a lot of the everyday knowledge that she got when she was growing up, things she learned from her grandmother, from her community, from her mother, in terms of how to respect the environment, the importance of nature, the importance of acting as stewards of the environment so that we can live a better world for our children. Harmonizing that with her scientific knowledge, and also seeing the science in a lot of the wisdom of the ordinary people is, I think, very important to me. As an African woman, I also respect the fact that she didn't set any limits for herself, and she didn't get discouraged even when she was disappointed. The fact that she worked with very little, and she made she made so much out of the little that she had. For many years she struggled without having with very modest means, and she did much of the work without too much help. Mm-hmm. So when she got big, I mean, I think many people would think, oh, well, she's had it easy. But she was doing the struggle without expecting anything in return.
I mean, she had meetings in her house.
Yes.
The movement was transported to her house,
Yes.
sort of. I mean,
Yes.
at least the planning committee, etc.
Yes. And the fact that she also had to, there was a time when she didn't have a job. There was a time she had to go look for an international job and leave her children with her husband. It wasn't easy. It was a hard struggle for her. So being able to just work within the circumstances and see possibilities instead of obstacles, I think is remarkable and inspiring. So anytime I have a moment when I'm feeling sorry for myself, I just have to think of her and how much she made from the modest circumstances that she was in, and that inspires me to press on.
Now this brings me to an issue which I'd like you to discuss. What about your own work? Can you tell us about your work?
Well, I have many aspects to my work. One of the things I am doing that I started a while back is an online peer-reviewed journal on African migration, and my hope is that I keep this online journal free. It's open access. I hope I keep it free. That people from any place in the world who want, especially the African continent, can access it for free and get exposed to research and scholarship and debates by people who do work on aspects of African migration. Another thing that I do is, well, I'm right now finishing up editing a book. I try to work with scholars predominantly in Nigeria to do collaborative publishing, and it's time consuming, it's very tiring, and it's unpaid work, and sometimes I feel discouraged because there's so many obstacles, and doing these things without a budget can be difficult, to say the least. I do research on gender and power. My focus is again for that on Nigeria, and what I'm working on now is looking at African initiated churches and women's leadership, or the lack thereof, in those churches, and looking at historical reasons and contemporary reasons why they're either taking leadership positions or not. That I find more exciting because it's work that I'm doing by myself. For the first time, I'm doing participant observation, which I'm teaching myself like an autodidact way, and I'm also I'm taking a lot. I've taken a lot of pictures which is very different from other research that I've done that's just been textual and library driven. I have done quite a few interviews of women and some men in the churches in Nigeria and here in the US. So a lot of the work, as I said, I don't have any research budget, and I'm doing it just from my own resources. And so it's slower than it would be if I had some kind of decent budget to pursue these things. Of course, I'm doing my teaching also. And I'm in a university, where teaching is more the focus than the research.
Good. So at the end of the day, what can we do to, and here this follows the discussion we had earlier, what can we do to celebrate the life, the contributions and so on of Wangari Maathai? What do you think?
I think for each of us it's got to be different, because each person would be naturally interested in different things. Plus we all have expertise in different disciplines. Mm-hmm. So I think carrying forward her work would have to be to engage one's work and think of solving the problems that one encounters in ways that not only benefits oneself but benefits the larger community of which one is part. So as an African in the United States, I guess I have common cause more with African Americans because we are minorities in the higher educational institutions where I have taught. And so, looking at my disciplinary expertise and looking at developing a pipeline of students who become interested in pursuing this area of expertise is something I'd like to work on, and that I have worked on. I've mentored a lot of students who have gone and done their PhDs, even though I'm in a my department only goes to the master's level in Brooklyn College. I've also worked on trying to mentor junior colleagues and to be helpful when they encounter institutional roadblocks, to give them, the benefit of my own experience as it relates to the circumstances they're facing, and to try to kind of network with them and help. I think it's always important to give people feedback on their work. So reading people's work, giving feedback in terms of comments on what they've done, and having other people do that for one. So building a community and making it a community that cares and that tries to be supportive.
Which of course will be the tradition of Wangari Maathai.
Yes, and solve problems that we encounter by being more, by paying, I'm never too busy to take a little bit of time and lend a helping hand to a colleague who is experiencing difficulties. And then, when people also make breakthroughs, celebrating with them and drawing inspiration from that victory or that breakthrough that person has made is important to me. So I think we have to make time and form communities of caring people